Hello my friends and welcome back to another tutorial of Fractured Online. Today we're talking about recipes and the likelihood that they will be dropped. Often I read in chat or even in Discord the question, where can I find the recipe for example, the Ranger Hammer? Or the question, who drops the recipe for the Warhammer? To the question, which mob drops a certain recipe, one should correctly say about 60 to 70% of all mobs drop your recipe for the Warhammer. Why is that? Quite simply. Each mob has a certain probability of dropping a recipe. The probability ranges from 0%, such as with rabbits, to 7.24%. This would be the case with legends. These are the enemies that you have to summon before you can fight them. However, when a recipe is dropped, it's always random. No matter which opponent, it's always random which recipe it will be. That means it is entirely possible that this frog in front of my house will drop a recipe and that this recipe will be the longbow recipe. But that doesn't mean that the next time the frog drops a recipe, it will drop another recipe for the longbow again. Or maybe it does. Of course, it's entirely possible that the frog will drop the dagger recipe the next time, or the scholar boots, or the cleric hood. In other words, when a recipe is dropped, it's always absolutely random which recipe it is. Now only one question remains: how likely is it that a recipe will be dropped at all? For this, you need to know that all mobs have been divided into groups. These groups are called challenge rating, or just CR. The challenge rating ranges from 1 to 10, and the higher the challenge rating, the harder the enemies, the better the loot, and the more likely it is that recipes will be dropped. Let's take a look at the individual groups, starting with challenge rating 1. Challenge rating 1 has a 0% chance of dropping a recipe. This is the case, for example, with rabbits, foxes, or even horses. Also, all tutorial opponents won't drop a recipe. On the new continent Terra, there's only one enemy type for challenge rating 1, which is the cassowary. That's the oversized blue chickens. Challenge rating 2 enemies also have a 0% chance of dropping recipes. For example, these are spiderlings, which are the small extra spiders that sit next to a large spider, or the wolves. On Terra, it's the warthogs and the tapirs. Challenge rating 3 also has no likelihood at all of dropping a recipe. These are for example black bears, skeletons and most zombies. On Terra, it's most gorgotons, sea turtles and most frogs you'll encounter. This means that if you're looking for a recipe, don't kill enemies of challenge rating 1 to 3. They are never going to drop a recipe. The situation is different starting with challenge rating 4, because with challenge rating 4 you have a 0.3% chance that the enemy will drop a recipe. These are for example the grizzly bears, most bandits, the goblin marchiefs, the goblin shamans, the skeletal archers, wolf spiders and the small woodland wisps. On Terra, it's the gorgoton chieftains, the alligators and also the big frog at my house. Challenge rating 5 already has a 0.51% chance of dropping a recipe. These are the bandit leaders, normal elementals and also the normal trolls. On Terra, it's most taskworms, Komodo dragons and also obsidian crabs. Challenge rating 6 has a probability of 0.87%. There we are talking about the crater elementals, the mammoths, the twants and elder trolls. On Terra, it's the colossal huskworms and the little dragons called dragonlings. Starting with challenge rating 7, you'll need a group to shoot down the enemies at least in the beginning. Here we have a 1.47% chance of a recipe. That's most Jotuns and most ogres. Also on Terra, it's the ogres that are in the challenge rating 7 category. Challenge rating 8, that's where it gets even tougher. We are already at 2.51% probability on a recipe. These are the Jotun Stormborn, the Ogre Lords and the Spiderlichs. On Terra we have the Ogre Archdruids and the Wild Behemoths, so the big rhinos running around. If we talk about challenge rating 9, we have a 4.26% chance of a recipe. At the moment, only the large dragons belong to the challenge rating 9 category. So the skeletal dragons on Myr and the amber, mountain and arboreal dragons on Terra. The last category is challenge rating 10. I already said it, here we have the legends that you have to summon before you can fight them, and you will definitely need a group to knock them down. The legends have a 7.24% chance of dropping a recipe. So in summary, the more difficult an enemy is, the more likely it is that a recipe will be dropped. Which recipe is dropped, on the other hand, is absolutely random. I hope I was able to clear up the topic with this tutorial, and I wish you good luck in your search for recipes. If you liked this video, please press the like button. And if you want to see more videos in the future, subscribe to my channel. Until then, be well and take care.